You are listening to the Will Power Podcast. Welcome to the show. I am Will Holdren, and I talk with some of the most influential CEOs, entrepreneurial leaders, and thought leaders to reveal the secrets that have led to their success. I believe that with the right knowledge and mindset, you can do anything you say your mind to. So if you want to learn how to change your life for the better, if you want to learn how millionaires actually became wealthy, or if you want to develop and start your own business from the ground up with the right knowledge to help you, then you are in the right place because this is the Willpower Podcast.
How are we doing, everyone? My name is Will Holgen. We're back for another week of our weekly Q&A. And this week, the first week of April, we actually have a lot of interesting stuff going on, especially when it comes to Trump and tariffs and everything going out there and going on in the stock market and just economic policy changes. So I'm really excited about this week to kind of explain, just my viewpoint of really what is going on. So once again, if you guys want to submit your questions that we'll be answering each Wednesday of each week, then find the email in the episode description and feel free to submit your questions there. And then our team will sort through those questions and hopefully you guys can get your question answered on the very next episode. But like I mentioned before, I'm super pumped about this episode, mainly because we got a lot of things to talk about. We got a lot of great questions coming in. So I'm excited to just jump into these questions and start answering them right away. So the first question we have here is a question from Andrew, who's based out of Dallas, Texas. And he asked, could increased tariffs on steel and lumber drive up home building prices in the US? So that answer in short is absolutely 100% yes, right? As Trump keeps announcing these tariffs and the cost of bringing in goods from other countries is going to continually rise, and that means the prices of those items in the US are also going to rise, right? So when you're going out and buying these materials, again, when you're going out to buy, for instance, lumber that's being imported, I mean, that cost is going to be so much higher. And again, that's really going to affect the overall price it's going to take for you to actually finish up a job, finish up a rehab, or even do like a fix and flip or something like that. So it's definitely a dangerous place to be if you guys are keep buying, imported materials, because that cost can change a lot coming up here in the next few months or even the next few years. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And again, it's just important that you guys are able to run your numbers and know what your break even is, right? Know what numbers are going to work for the project that you guys are actually developing and currently working in. So the next question we have here is Taylor, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And Taylor asked if all of the recent tariffs are going to positively or negatively affect the housing market. So this is a good question. And I talked about this before a few episodes ago. And one, I think that it is an absolutely perfect time to go out and buy housing right now for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, one, rates are relatively high, right, compared to what we've seen before, right? They're still in the mid sixes to get a typical 30-year mortgage. If you're going out buying investment property, you're probably going to pay a little bit more than that because it's not your primary residence. But with that being said, because rates are higher, there's going to be less competition going out there trying to purchase properties right now. So I always say I would much rather have rates in this kind of category as they are right now, so then I can go out there and get a home for a lower purchase price than I could if the rates were actually going to be lower and there was more competition, right? So I'd rather have a lower purchase price with a higher rate rather than a lower rate with a much higher purchase price, because money on real estate is always made on the buy, right? So it's very important that you get into these properties on the very right price point. So how do tariffs kind of affect this? First of all, it's important to take a look around and really see what is going on in the economy, right? Trump is not only the president, obviously, but he's also a businessman, right? Who has much of his holdings in real estate. And when these rates are high, his real estate holdings are going to be lower, right? Because he's going to have much less equity in these homes. And what's interesting is that a lot of these people had five-year floating rate mortgages, where now those 5 years are up and now the rates on those loans are going to be jumping up. And now they're going to be underwater. And what that means is their cost each month is going to be higher than the revenue that they're going to be making. And a lot of that is because of the mortgage rates, because how high they are and how much money these people are going to need to be paying out just to cover their mortgage payments. So again, Trump being a businessman, he has a lot of value in real estate. So you got to think kind of what could be the underlying reason for everything that he's doing, right? Because on paper, what he's doing seems just crazy, right? Because now the stock market is really had a drop, right? I mean, a 10% correction or a 10% decrease is pretty common per year, right? But now there's a lot of times where we could even go potentially lower than a 10% correction. We're right about that level right now. So I personally believe Trump is trying to force the hand of the Fed, right? The Fed is not going to lower rates unless they reach like a recessionary standpoint or they really see signs of, high unemployment or high inflation, right? And so what's important to realize is that unemployment levels are pretty much right around where they should be, right? So we're typically right around full employment right now, which is about 4%. We're a little bit over that, and then inflation is also honestly not that high, right? So inflation on like CPI and producer price index, which is PPI, they're right around the 3% mark, right? Which isn't too bad. Like I talked about before, the only thing that is relatively high is the cost of money, right? So while inflation for these products might not be high, if you have to go out there and borrow money so you can purchase these products, the cost of borrowing that money is high. And so it's going to feel like we're still in this very high inflationary period. And so that's also very important to keep in mind. So what Trump is doing while he's increasing his tariffs and it seems like stocks are going down, we're really having a market correction. And on top of that, we're going to see a lot of layoffs coming off from government employees, right? And so if unemployment rises and GDP lowers, then that is a sign that we're heading into a recessionary level, right? And once we get into that recessionary level, Trump can now force the hand of the Fed to actually lower interest rates because that is how the Fed is gonna combat those two things of happening, right? High unemployment, lower GDP. They're going to offset that by actually lowering interest rates. And so again, I think we're going to see those two signs going forward. But with that said, I mean, when the economy goes into a recession, the housing market tends to struggle. And what I mean by that is values are going to be dropping, right? Because there's going to be less people out there that are going to be spending money on these properties. And what that means is that, once again, you can look at things either positive or negative. But if you guys are in a position where you have cash to go out there and get properties, now is the perfect time to take advantage of these properties that are going up for sale because, like I mentioned, they're going to be on discount. Values are dropping. So once again, if you're in a position to go out there and purchase properties, now is actually the very perfect time to go out there and do that. I think it's only going to get better and better as this year goes on. And once again, I don't think rates are going to be changing much this year. There's arguments to be made that rates could be increasing, or like I said, if we go into a recessionary standpoint, then rates could actually be decreasing. But like I mentioned, it's important that if you guys are selling your home, it's probably not the best time to do that just because, like I mentioned, values are going to be decreasing. But if you're out there buying a home, I mean, you can be very, very smart, very strategic about that and get a really good deal on a property. And again, like I mentioned, you make money on the buy of the property. And so it's a really good time to go out there and do that. Okay. So the next question that we have here, so again, that's a great question. The next question that we have here is someone based out of Alabama, and this person asked, how do Trump's proposed tariffs on imports affect construction costs in the real estate industry? So again, good question. And as I said before, I think as these tariffs are increasing, these imports that we're bringing into our country are also going to be increasing, drive the cost of those imports up. So again, Trump's going to be making a lot of people buy stuff a lot more locally, right? So that's just an important concept to keep in mind. The next question that we have here is, what have you seen to be the most profitable way to invest in real estate? I mean, there's so many options out there. I'm confused on which one I should jump into. So that's also a good question. And so once again, it kind of just depends on what market you're in and understanding your current market. I mean, if you guys are in cities, I really believe co-living is going to be the future. I mean, you guys have seen it right now. Housing costs are just going up immensely. And Gen Z, millennials, most of them are still living at home with their parents, right? People that are under 30, there's a high percentage of them still living with their parents because they cannot afford the cost of living, right? Rather just going out there, getting their own apartment, or even just going out there and buying a home. So once again, co-living strategies, I think, are going to be constantly growing where now people can just rent a room. They can share a bathroom, share a kitchen, but they can rent their own room particularly. And it's going to save them a lot of money, but also you as a landlord, can make so much more money per property because you're maximizing the space that you have available in your home. And what that means is that now instead of renting out, a 1,500 spot to one or two people and maybe generating $1,500 a month, you can now rent it out to four people. You add a bedroom, or you take out the living room, add a bedroom, and now you have more bedrooms that you can rent out. And if you can make $800 a room per month, you can do the math on that, but I think the numbers work out very well on their own. So again, my strategy that I've been doing is something called pad split. It's a really amazing way where you can get into a rental property. You can convert it into a pad split rental, which means that you're adding bedrooms, right? You're maximizing the space. And then you can actually list your property on something called pad split. And pad split is a hosting platform, just like Airbnb. And so you can take your property, take pictures of it, post it on pad split, and pad split is actually going to be the ones going out there doing the work, finding the tenants for you. And obviously they're going to get compensated for the work that they're doing for you on your own rental property. And what that means is that how they get compensated is they take the first 10 months of rent, or first 10 days of rent, sorry, not 10 months, first 10 days of rent, and they are going to get 100% of that money. And that money, honestly, is going to be used to compensate them for going out there and finding that tenant. That's about what that equates to. And then after those first 10 days are up, pad split is going to take 8% of the monthly income, and that 8% is going to go to them. But what's nice is that pad split is going to be the ones going out there, collecting the rent, having that credit card on file, pulling the rent money every single week. And then once a month, pad split will deposit the other 92% that you're owed, and that money will then go into your company bank account. So it's a lot more hands-off. That kind of act as a property manager in that regard. But again, it's still up to you to be the one to go out there and fix a toilet if it breaks, or fix a leak when it happens, and it's going to happen, right? So you still have to be somewhat on the ball for those properties. But that to me is the best strategy I've seen. I mean, you can see Airbnb is out there, but honestly, I think Airbnb is becoming so much more less advantageous to the actual landlord and more advantageous to the tenants. It's just becoming a losing game, right? And a losing battle. So I think people are definitely shifting away from that. And there's other options as well. You can do Verbo type stuff, or you can also do vacation rentals. And I think vacation rentals are also a very good opportunity to look into. I mean, if you can get something on a prime land, prime spot, you can rent it out for quite a bit, right? And also you're dealing with a different class of tenants. So it's just important to keep in mind. But again, the important thing is to realize where you are at in your market and really just what is available to you, and just figure out how much you can really earn in the location that you're at. And again, you can do that by doing market research, right? You can go on to Zillow and see what other people are renting for or charging for rent. So it's really just important to do your research. So that, guys, is going to cover this week's Q&A. Once again, if you guys have questions, please submit them to the email that you're going to find in the description of this episode. And our team's going to sort through those, and we'll pick out the best ones. We'll be happy to answer you guys' questions on the next episode. Once again, subscribe to the show, right? That is the best way that we grow. So give us a 5-star review, share the show, let other people know that you're out there listening, right? Because we want to share a positive message in today's world and really help transform the lives of others and lead others into financial independence by leveraging real estate, right? Leveraging entrepreneurship, because there are ways out there to make money, right? And the American dream is very much still alive. So we would really much appreciate you guys sharing the show and giving us a 5-star review. Until next week.